So we're here looking at Joe's Navigator. We built a new platform for it, and it's kind of cool. We're using the track, the T-track. His old one just had the skid clamp screwed down, so the T-track gives us that adjustability. This is the way they come in a couple of 2-footers and the screws to mount it. And then we use this hardware pack. There's enough for an entire helicopter, 4 clamps to secure the clamps to the T-track. The way the T-track works is it's that detail there, and the track nuts and thumb screws secure it. So this platform, we wanted to do something kind of cool. We wanted to let the track in flush. Thought it'd look pretty cool. And the other thing we did that's nice is we custom fit some blocks and mounted them to the interior trim so that it looks really factory, and that's what we secure the platform to. So in a minute, we're going to show you how we did all of that stuff, and maybe give you some ideas about how you can build a platform too. So hi guys, we're here today to put a platform in Joe's new Lincoln Navigator. We had one in his old GMC Yukon, but he sold that. We got a cool new car, and it's time to put a platform in to haul his helis. So I'm going to show you how we build this thing today, and there's a couple of trick things that we're going to do. We've got a piece of plywood rough cut that's going to be the basis of our platform, but I want to show you the details about how we're going to turn this into what we really want. We've got an advantage in this vehicle because we can actually get into these sidewells that we're going to use for attachment, so we don't need any 2x4s or heavy construction under here. By doing that, everything will be clean, clear. We can put maximum gear into the vehicle. So let me bring you in closer. I want to show you a nice feature in this vehicle. We've got some cup holders or cargo holders or something. They come out pretty easily, and this is going to give us access behind the trim panel. So if you want to zoom in here a little bit, you can see how much room I've got. And the usefulness of this is I'm going to mount little blocks to this trim, screw it right through, and those blocks then will pick up the platform. By doing that, we don't have any 2x4s or anything down under there. So the next step for me is to cut the plywood, drop it into this opening, and then locate these blocks. So we've rough cut the plywood platform to fit tight, relatively tight, in between the wheel wells, the trim. Now the next step would be to set this thing up level and locate these blocks that we're going to use to mount the platform. But the thing about this plastic trim inside every vehicle I've run into is you can't count on it being square, the same height, or anything else. The only thing we know for sure is that we want this platform parallel to the floor. So I started using this straight edge, but I could find out right away that it's sitting low on this side, high on that side, because the trim's a little warped or it's manufactured a little differently. So what I want to do instead is I want to measure here and make sure it's even on both sides, right? And I've got some cardboard shims in the edges of the panel to hold it there while I knock it around. Once I've got it parallel, then I'll mark it and I'll lay out my blocks that'll be used to support it. So we've got the platform parallel to the base, the floor in the cargo area, and I've marked the bottom side, the underside of the platform where the blocks will go. These blocks are going to mount. But if you look on this trim panel, it's not straight up and down. So we can't just take a plain block and stick it there. It's not going to fit correctly and it'll look funky. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to carve out the back of this block so it stays straight up and down but is sort of feathered in to fit this edge. The way I'm going to do it is I'm going to use this little cardboard template and I'm going to hold it square to the underside, and then I'm going to use a compass as a scribe to run down and make this line. And so now you can see I've got this sort of curve here, and I'm going to cut that curve off the back like that. And that way this block will be vertical and it'll nest tight to this trim. So I used the cardboard template that we made a minute ago and cut the arcs that I made with my scribe tool, and I transferred those to these blocks. One for the right side and one for the left side. The two sides of the vehicle are actually different. So then I laid that out on the edge of the block and I used a bandsaw to cut through it, and so you can see the angle that's been cut. Now, if you look closely, when I locate that block back where I want, it's really nice and tight to the wall, and it's square with the bottom of the panel. So that's the sort of trick part of what we're doing with these blocks. Okay, so we're ready to locate these blocks. I've got my first piece of tape here where I'm going to locate the first block, and it's 12 inches off this inside surface. And I thought I wanted to make these blocks located more or less symmetrically inside the cargo area. So I have my mark for the top, the underside of the platform, and I'm going to take my block, locate it right there, and use a Sharpie to mark it. So there I am, centered over my piece of tape, and I can just go through there, make my dot. That's where I'm going to drill. Now I'll carry on, do another 12 inches there, move to the other side, lay out the same thing. In all the cases, I'll be coming 12 inches off the cargo lid door. Okay, so we've drilled the first pair of holes in the trim panels, and what we're going to use to attach our blocks is a socket head cap screw, a large fender washer, and an acorn nut. The fender washer is going to spread out the load on the other side of the trim panel, and then the acorn nut is going to sit in the middle of the counter bore that we've already made, and it'll look, you know, nice and pretty like that, right? So that's the hardware we're going to use. So I'm going to go ahead and test mount the first block, set the panel in place, lay out the second rear block so that we know that we like the angle of the panel, and then mount those blocks. We've mounted all 4 of the blocks to the trim panels. You can see how nicely our cutout worked. You know, that taper job fits really nice against the trim panels. The next step is to use a doubled up thickness of carpet to simulate the wrapped over carpet on the platform, and we'll cut that down so that it drops in nicely. Okay, so the blocks are mounted. We've rough cut our panel, and we've now finish cut it. We use a doubled over thickness of carpet as a shim so that when we wrap the carpet around the platform, it's a nice fit. Not too tight, but not sloppy. And we've located a couple of helicopters on the platform and moved them as far toward the cargo lid as we can to get maximum space behind the tails. We figured out that it's going to take an 18-inch board. It's going to cut off right behind our rear blocks. So that's the next step. Cut the platform down front to back, and we can start routing grooves. So we've trimmed the panel front to back to the 18 inches that we wanted. The next thing we want to do is mark the blocks that are attached to the trim panels here so that we can drill through the panel, the platform, and install these thumb screws. Once we have that hole, then we'll mark the blocks and we'll drill and tap those. So this will be how we hold the panel to the vehicle, the platform to the vehicle. So I'm just going to go around and trace the location of these, and then I'll center it up, drill a hole, and that's it. We laid out the block locations on the underside of the platform and drilled 1/4-inch holes through those. Now I've put the platform back in the position where it goes, and I'm going to use a slightly undersized 1/4-inch drill to just peck the top of the blocks, and that'll give me my location to drill and tap for the 1/4-20 thumb screws. So just a little bit to mark it. That's all it takes. And then I'll do the other 2 and then take the platform away. So I'm going to use a wedge from the cut I made to shape it to the interior to help me clamp this thing. I've got it marked. We've taken these out of the vehicle now. And I'm just going to put that in there, tighten that up, and now I'm going to drill through a tap drill for 1/4-20 and then come back and tap it. So here we go. So that's done. Then eyeball that. Feels pretty good there. This is HDPE plastic. It's pretty nice to tap. Got the drill set really soft so it'll break loose if it gets tight. There we go. And there's that. And oh, there's our thumb screw. Like that. So that'll be how we'll attach the panel or the platform to the vehicle. There we go. Okay, I got 3 more to do. So we've drilled the holes through the platform and tested the layout against the blocks on the trim panels. The thumb screws go in nicely. So the next step is to lay out the track. And to do that, we set our helicopters up there, moved them as far forward as we wanted. We came away with 3 1/4 inches to the first rail and 5 inches in between. I want to point out a couple of things. We've left a gap in our layout, and we'll do this before we assemble them, and also a gap on the end. That lets us get the clamps into the track. So next step is remove the platform. We're going to cut some grooves and actually lay these things in flush so it's really cool, and then put the carpet on. So we brought the platform into the garage and set up a router with a template guide, used a straight edge as an offset, and cut our 2 grooves. We're going in about a little over 5/16 to leave this track just proud of there so that when our carpet comes in, the track will still be a little high and it'll protect the carpet edge. So you don't need to do that stuff, but it's kind of cool. Okay, so we're pretty much done. We cut the grooves and then we used contact cement to glue the carpet to the platform, radius the corners, tucked it underneath. Then we cut out the carpet out of the groove area and dropped in the rails. Because we've only got 1/4 inch of material left, 5/16 or so, we didn't bother using screws to secure the track to the platform. Instead, we just mixed up some epoxy and poured it into the slots and then dropped the rails in. So that ought to work fine. And next step is put it in the car. Okay, so it's been a long day. We got the platform in the vehicle, Joe's new Lincoln, or new to Joe Lincoln. It's pretty cool. It was unnecessary, but these rails being flush really is kind of cool. Joe decided he wanted to leave a gap in the middle. These are both 24-inch rails, and this is a 51-inch platform that we could use and drop in to load skid clamps on their hardware. And that makes sense to me, so we just painted the gap black, and that's it. The epoxy's drying now, so we're not going to load any helicopters tonight. But maybe tomorrow we'll be at the field, and Joe will have some skid clamps locked down and some helicopters in there. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. It was fun. Long day for us, but I think very cool. So support at randomheli.com if you want to ask questions about it. Have fun.